Hey guys, could you please shortly introduce yourself and tell us what you do for Hearthstone?
Yeah, sure. I'm Rachelle Davis. I am a senior software engineer on the Hearthstone team.
I'm Peter Whalen. I'm one of the game designers on the Hearthstone team.
All right, Peter, I want to maybe start with you because you're the game designer. I actually have the same question for you, Rachelle, but that'll be later on. What are like the biggest challenges for you when rolling out an expansion like Mean Streets?
Honestly, it's
Gadgetzan?
mostly just a lot of fun. This part of the process is great. It's
Yeah.
out of our hands, and now it's in the hands of the players. And it's really cool to read Twitter, to read Reddit, to read forums, to see all the community feedback.
You
and
do that a lot, yeah?
what cards people are excited about, how they're excited to use them. People have been talking about Kazakus and how they're going to use it in their Reno Jackson decks.
Yeah.
And they've been talking about some of the new priest cards like Potion of Madness or Pint-Sized Potion.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to see people be excited about it and to see what their imaginations are taking them.
So you said this is like my favorite moment because the other thing that seems intimidating. I'm a game developer myself as well, and I can just like someone ever asked me because I love Hearthstone, would you ever want to be a game designer on a team? And I was like, well, I don't know. It's a big responsibility. The players are experts at your game. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, it's great actually. The best parts of a set are right now when we're releasing and when you have a totally blank sheet and there's nothing there and you just get to do whatever you want and explore all kinds of crazy spaces, explore all kinds of crazy things like the Mean Streets of Gadgetzan. What if we had tri-class cards? What if we had different classes band together as part of a faction like the Grimy Goons or the Cabal?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, we play lots of games with it. We try out things. We see what's fun and what's not fun, what's fair and what's a little too crazy.
Yeah.
And then we tune things so that there's just the right amount of crazy out there.
Nice. So Rachelle, what's been the biggest challenge for you when working on Mean Streets of Gadgetzan?
In this case, I would say the tri-class cards have been probably one of the most exciting as well as one of the most challenging. From an engineering standpoint, we assumed way back when we started standing up Hearthstone that one card, one class, or it may be a neutral card. But there wasn't this concept of, you can put your, I know a guy into your warrior deck, and then you can also put the Grime Street Informer into your warrior deck or into your hunter or to your paladin deck. So those are two different kinds of cards we have to support. So making that happen from an engineering standpoint,
You had to refactor your whole code base.
yes, we did, and that takes a lot of.
Were you angry at him when he came up
Actually,
with
so excited, so
Okay.
excited. That's actually one of the best parts of my job, honestly, is that we get to work with brilliant people like Peter who have these zany ideas, and then we get to put them into working tech that can make them happen for the players. And then, honestly, the most exciting and maybe also challenging part of an expansion for me is the launch period.
Yeah.
When this finally goes out and we see, did our choices about tri-class make everybody happy? And also, is our tech standing up? And we're watching it so carefully. And believe it or not, there's a team of engineers like myself that are just glued to the computer when these things are going out. That's probably the most exciting part for me.
And are you ever anxious when it rolls out that you're afraid of, I don't know exactly if there's ever any bugs present or maybe player outrage?
You're so kind to say that you don't know if there are any bugs present. I love that. We are anxious, but we feel really confident about how much testing that we've put into this, how much brain power we've put into this.
Obviously.
I mean, we do have, as you mentioned, extremely smart players,
Yeah.
and there's so many more players than there are of the developers. So that does mean that sometimes they find things that we didn't explore, we didn't quite get to.
Yeah.
But we are watching and we are listening and we're trying to be as responsive as we can. And then we're learning from you. So when you decide that, hey, you're going to put these combination of cards together that somehow we missed, if that does happen, which has happened a couple of times, honestly, then we're quick to respond and we make it work.
Great.
And then you guys are up and running again. So.
Great. So another question for you, Peter. Within the design process, are there any cards that you are personally proud of that you worked on, or is there a favorite card that you like to talk about?
Oh, sure. Kazakus is a fantastic card. Kazakus is the leader of the Cabal, so you can play him in your mage, your priest, or your warlock decks. And if your deck has no duplicates, you get to make your own card.
Okay.
One of the things that I like best in all the world, basically, is designing cards. And now you get to do it as a player.
Yeah.
And so it's really cool to be able to give that feeling to our player base. And so how that works in Hearthstone is you play them out, and you get to choose the cost of the card. It's either 1, 5, or 10.
Yeah.
And then you get to pick what it does. It's always going to be a spell, so you'll pick maybe summon an 8/8 minion, or draw some cards, or add some demons to your hand.
Yeah.
And then you get to pick a second ability. So you get to glue two things together in a way that's advantageous for you, for your position. And on the one hand, that's incredibly fun, but it's also really skill testing. It's an interesting decision. Better players will make the right decision more often and win games because of it, and that's fantastic.
Great. Another thing I noticed is that this allows players to be creative within the match.
Yep.
Personally love that. I love the creative side of Hearthstone, you know, putting together my own decks and deciding a strategy, and that's why I love it when a new expansion comes out. However, you also see the big meta, you know, the guys that just grind away and they don't even come up with their own decks, they just use a deck that's been pre-made. How do you feel about that? Is that something you really want to support, or is that something you try to move away from to keep creativity alive?
Yeah, creativity is a really important part of Hearthstone. It's great to see people experiment with new decks. And it's always going to be the case that some people prefer to play the creative side, the deck building, and figure out their own weird decks, maybe in tavern brawls, maybe in ranked play as well, and see what kind of strange, crazy things they can come up with. And other people are going to really enjoy the strategic elements of playing the game, and lots of people, of course, like both.
Yeah.
So even at the highest levels of Hearthstone, at the World Championships, we've seen some unusual decks.
Obviously, yeah.
Meowth has brought his Arcane Giant Warrior.
Yeah.
Hamster's whole lineup, it has Paladin and Priest. Those decks are really cool. He's playing a Murloc N'Zoth Paladin deck that is, you know, combining a whole bunch of things together, and that's really cool to see. So even at the highest level, developing your own decks, trying out new things is effective. It's
obviously,
is powerful. So that's great to see.
Cool. Rachelle, for you the same question. Is there anything you're personally proud of with Mean Streets?
I think it's really great that the entire team works so closely together to make something that is incredible. So in the case of Mean Streets, this was our first really huge exploration of new content. We've done it before a little here and there, but this time we went all out. I mean, we have not just a new kind of take on an old place, a place you may have visited in Daenerys, you know, Gadgetzan is not the Gadgetzan you remember. But in addition to that kind of new vibe of the city, we have 3 families that we're exploring, and that transcends all of the team. That's obviously the design space, and how do we make the cards feel like this is one family's card, this is a Grimy Goons card, this is a Jade Lotus, this is a Cabal card. But that also transcends the artwork. And there's a lot of thought that went into, you know, making everything look very specific to the appropriate crime family, as well as, you know, putting tri-class cards into the collection manager, and where do they go, and what does it look like, how does it feel to you, the player, and then of course the engineering side. So the fact that we had to all work so closely together, and we do this every time, but this was a really, really big push for us as a group to kind of make this magic happen in Gadgetzan.
Is there also a lot of transparency towards the team? Like, do you take upon each other's tasks, or this might be a little bit of a expert question, but I'm just curious, or do you really stick to your role as an engineer or as a designer, or does it all kind of flow into...
You know, everybody a little bit on the Hearthstone team is a designer. And that comes from the fact that everybody on the team loves the game. So we all are very, very passionate about playing it, and therefore we have ideas. But that covers a lot of different types of play, which is something that Peter was mentioning. Like, we care very much about all our types of players. And so we have that kind of represented in small microcosms across the entire team. So that gets, you know, transported into each set that we do. You know, generally speaking, I'm writing code every day, but that doesn't mean that the designers, they are always seeking feedback, and there's a lot of cross communication. We have an office space that is just wide open. So we're sitting, you know, intermingled with one another, and if you have a question, you just get up and you talk and you say, hey, I don't understand how this works, or I have concerns about this, have you thought about that? And that goes through all departments in all ways that you can possibly imagine. I think you can see it in the result. When you walk into the Mean Streets, it's like, this is working. It's a cohesive experience. You understand what's going on, and that's because we work so closely together. Yeah, I'm also curious, Peter. There's been a lot of, the community is very enthusiastic, and there's been a lot of disturbance, so to say, especially around the several different modes. Because, of course, we have Tavern Brawl, and we've got both casual and ranked play. We've got, like, the year right now, so the normal deck or the wild card decks, you know, where anything is possible. Do you think Hearthstone will get to a point where it's really hard for you as a designer to still expand the already very expansive card set and possibilities? I'm really not that worried about running out of design space or any of that. The
bigger concern, I think, is making sure the game remains accessible for new players.
Oh, yeah.
One of the best things about Hearthstone is how accessible it is, that you can pick it up and you can try it out. Both my parents have played, and my dad got incredibly into it. He's still really, really into Hearthstone.
You must be so proud then.
I'm very happy.
It's great to see your parents gaming, right?
He actually came to BlizzCon this year to watch the World Championship because he was so excited about it. It's really nice.
Yeah, nice.
So yeah, making sure that the game is still accessible to new players is incredibly important. So that's one of the things that we spend a lot of time every time we release new cards. Make sure that you can read them, that you can understand them, that they're clear. And as long as we keep doing that, I think that Hearthstone's in a great place.
Yeah.
We have lots of different game modes that support lots of different types of players, and there's still so many different cool ideas that we can try out in Hearthstone. And you see it in Mean Street. So you're making your own spell, you're using cards in multiple different classes. There's all kinds of cool stuff that we still have left to do.
And is there anything that got shut down that you can maybe tease? Because we have seen a lot of creative tavern brawls, and we have seen some influences from tavern brawls later on added into the game. Is there anything you can talk about that you could say, like, I hope this makes it in, or maybe something made it in Mean Streets of Gadgetzan that you're really proud of that you explored in Tavern Brawl?
Yeah, there are definitely some crazy things that we've done in Tavern Brawl or in cards that haven't made it into a set yet. But one of the cool stories, I think, is Patches the Pirate. Patches the Pirate has been in sets for a long time. We teased him, actually. Ben Brode mentioned him as part of the grand tournament.
Yeah.
He was Sky Captain Kreeg for a little while, but we didn't end up doing it then. We've tried it in future sets. We've called it was Cthulhu's first mate for a while.
Okay.
It's had
a lot of
long
iterations.
life, but now it's finally coming out. This is the last expansion before Gang Up goes into Wild, and so we really wanted to make sure that Gang Up and this guy, Patches, saw play at the same time. It's really cool to be able to use them in the same deck and try out some like crazy combo things that you can do in your rogue decks in particular, but other pirate decks too.
Cool. Rachelle, for you again, are there any challenges that you're looking forward to now that you've worked on Mean Streets of Gadgetzan that you think, oh man, either from a technical standpoint or a game design standpoint, I'd really like the game to go there, or this has been my dream, or maybe you have a favorite card that you have as an example that the game could take direction from?
You know, every single time that we release an expansion, I think this is the greatest thing we've ever done. How are we going to top it? I thought that with Karazhan, and how here we are at the Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, and I feel, again, we've like blown ourselves away, literally with Patches blowing out of the deck. But it's hard to imagine what's coming next, really. I know after all of these years, I've been on the team for 5.5 years now, and after all of these years, every time I'm wowed. So I've stopped wondering if I'm going to like continue to be inspired, and I now am completely trusting that every single time it's going to be better than the last, and it's hard to imagine what that will be. For now, I'm just super excited to explore all of the different crime families. I really like being able to dabble a little bit in each of the different classes, and this time I get to kind of explore in a new way with the tri-class cards and try and get some healing in my warlock decks and do some crazy things with hunters and their piranha guns that I'm very excited about the piranha gun personally. But I'm really excited to kind of see where the meta goes from this point forward as we start to like divulging what are the Jade Lotus's plans in the next few weeks, and what are the Grimy Goons really all about, like as the community starts to embrace it. That's always really fun for me as well.
Great. And is there any card that you might say you regret already, that you think, oh, oops, we have made one powerful?
That's another really great thing about working with these people on this team, is that I trust them completely, that they've thought through these things. And we spend hours and thousands of games with each and every card that we put into a new set.
Yeah, of course.
In all sorts of different formats. I mean, not just the new standard, version of the game, but also in Arena, also in Wild, everything you can imagine, we've tried to give thought to. And so I really trust that we have done our best effort here.
Great.
And I'm excited to see you guys take it places that we didn't even imagine.
Yeah, I was going to ask both of you, what's your favorite class, and would it still matter as much now that we have such a synergy between all classes, or a new possibility between all the classes?
I gravitate a lot of the time towards Warrior.
Great.
I just like to be, big and buff and hulking, and then take the fight to the opponent myself. And I think that it does matter very much. Even with the Grimy Goons having the coalition of hunters and paladins and warriors together, each class within that crime family is going to play just slightly differently. So that's one of the things that I'm actually excited about for the Mean Street of Gadgetzan is to try my warrior-flavored Grimy Goon deck and then see what I have to change when I take that to the paladins or to the hunters.
Yeah.
So I think it will be different, and there'll be a feeling of unity and yet still different play styles, which I'm really excited to explore myself.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't really have a favorite class. I play all of the different classes a fair amount, and which decks I'm playing at any point in time changes. I spent a lot of time with Evolve Shaman when Whispers of the Old Gods came out.
Yeah.
I've been playing a Reno Jackson Mage lately
Oh, wow.
in preparation for Kazakus.
Okay, cool.
And so there's a lot of, I try a lot of different crazy things. I played a King Crush Hunter for a while.
Nice.
I like big dinosaurs.
That was one of my first decks.
Yeah, so I thought that one was fun. So yeah, I've tried a lot of different things, and Rachelle's totally right. I think the coolest part about tri-class cards is not that they make the classes feel the same, but that they make the classes, they feel different in the different classes. They accentuate how cool each individual class is, what the strengths and the weaknesses are. So you're playing Cabal Courier, and it feels different in a Warlock deck than in a Priest deck.
So you see more as giving the player flexibility instead of taking away some of the...
Yes, exactly. Class identity is very, very important to us, and so having things that play that up rather than take it away are very important.
Yeah, because one of my favorite things to do is, like, I like each class except for the rogue for some reason. I don't know why. So when I play a rogue, I try to make her as much not a rogue as possible by, changing her hero power or whatever. But it also makes me wonder, like, are there more possibilities for new classes? And I'm pretty sure you guys aren't allowed to talk to it, but it's just personal, like, interest.
So there's always possibilities for new classes, but we don't have any plans right now. We're really happy with the 9 classes that we've got. They all have their own feel. They have a class identity, a class fantasy, and they have mechanical niches, things that are appropriate for them. So druids are very good at generating mana. Warriors are good at generating armor and enraging their minions, dealing with damaged minions. And so all of the classes have that kind of niche, and we don't feel like there's mechanics that we want to try out that can't fit into one of our available classes.
Yeah.
If we run into that and we have a cool idea and we say, man, the only possible way we can do the things that we want and the way that we can make Hearthstone the best it can be is to add the Demon Hunter, the Death Knight, or the Disco Dancer, whatever the right class is that we want to explore, then we'll go down that route and we'll see what we can do. But right now we're really happy with the 9 that we've got, and we don't have any plans to add a 10th.